Hello and welcome to the Shed Sounds Media YouTube channel. My name is Ian B. About, and today we will be taking a look at yet another viewer request. Today, I'll be talking about Animals by Pink Floyd. What you have here is Roger Waters taking influence from George Orwell. Animal Farm is a unique choice because you have this idea that animals, the animal kingdom, take on the characteristics and the mistakes of humanity and the social structures of humanity. A song like Dogs being a treatise on the world of the businessman, the man or woman who will do anything, will step on anybody's toes or hooves, paws, to get to the top. And the ultimate alienation and terrible lonely death that ultimately occurs because in the end, you have no friends left. What a great message. Pigs, three different ones, approaching the ruling class and the lawmakers, directly criticizing Mary Whitehouse, who was kind of if you're familiar with American politics, she was something of the Tipper Gore of her era. There's that brilliant line that Roger snarls about, "You're trying to keep our feelings off the street." This is really cutting, biting, even funny. Like that's the thing that, people don't talk about, is that there's a lot of like wit and sarcasm and bite to these topics and lyrics. And you have Sheep, the third kind of main piece on the record, although I guess fourth if you count Pigs on the Wing, but I'll talk about that in the moment. But Sheep is the everyday person, the person, just kind of idly chewing the grass. Ultimately, it is the sheep who rise up and take over the ruling class. So I do like it that the everyman wins. That's such a great and powerful message from this recording. And finally, I mentioned the two Pigs on the Wing tracks that are really one song. But I think it was a wise decision to kind of cut it up and start with part one and end with part two, because it wraps this story up in a very authentic love song. We're now no longer talking about the politics in an international or global scale. We're talking about the love between one human being and another. I like that we're cushioning some of the worst parts of humanity with one of the best parts of humanity, which is love and hope. Now, I haven't talked about any of the actual music. I've just talked about the lyrics. The music is amazing. And it's not just driven by the lyrical message. There's this sense that at the beginning of the album that you see the stage set and the curtain is closed and Roger Waters is playing and singing Pigs on the Wing on a spotlight. And then as Dogs begins, the curtain begins to pull apart and you see the other members of the band behind. And David Gilmour on guitar and on vocals is probably the best thing happening here musically. When I listened to this in 5.1 surround sound last night, I noticed just how well arranged this is. Moments where you feel like it might be an improvised solo have these just glorious harmony parts underneath that make me feel like, they really worked on this. Like, they really worked out these lead parts, or Dave Gilmour did. The shortest 18-minute song I've ever heard. You can play it again and again and again, and it feels like an 8-minute song or a 5-minute song. It's so tightly written, and it's got contrast and relief where it needs it. It's got bite where it needs it. such as when Roger Waters enters at the end of the song and really drives the point home. When you get to the conclusion, you can really feel it. What a beautiful track. And, the ambient moments they never overstay their welcome. They feel in complete service to the mood and sound of the piece. And, if you're going to make a 20-minute song, make this one. That's all I'm saying. Like, Make this one. Not a moment of time is wasted. And that's what I love about it. Moving on to the next song, which is Pig's Three Different Ones. Is this not the punkiest, funkiest thing that Pink Floyd ever came up with? It's so just raw, and it has that distorted guitar sound throughout, and the pig noises, the screeching wails. This is Pink Floyd channeling punk, the punk aesthetic. But I think it was a real angst and frustration that was coming out of the band that came out of this music. I think that Pink Floyd at this time had a finger on the pulse, and maybe they knew what was coming. They could sense a change in the air, and that's what gives this album its edge. And it's got edge aplenty. We move on to finally Sheep. This opens with one of my favorite moments on the record, and that's Rick Wright's electric piano. I suppose it's a Fender Rhodes, but this added to the audio in the background of the Sheep. You hear this funky keyboard part starting, and it sets this mood for this kind of impending darkness that comes in when Nick Mason's powerhouse Phil enters, and you have these vocal parts sung by Roger Waters that seem to morph into Rick Wright's synthesizer, which I love. That has just blown my little mind since I first heard this album back in like the early 2000s. I've just totally been astounded by this electronic effect, this meeting of the recording of the human voice and a synthesizer sound. Could it be any more welcome to the machine if it tried? Like that's almost what this is bringing back to me is that classic menacing song from Wish You Were Here. But we have this moment where we have some ambience, and there's this reading of, I'm not super up on like religious stuff, but I believe it's Psalm 23 that's recited, but it's rewritten. And if there's one thing that I might criticize on this album, I wish that they would have made that rewritten psalm clearer, so you could understand what he's saying. It's incredible. It's again a combination of the political background, the angst. It's also, there's that sense of humor, and I get the sense that a lot of these choices, as dark as they may seem, when you listen to them, I have this feeling that maybe Roger and the boys were laughing when they wrote a lot of this stuff. Well, there's nothing else to do, so we might as well just laugh about it. It's a coping mechanism. And that's another thing, another lesson that I have gained from listening to this recording, that it is important to keep one sense of humor. This song ends in one of the heights of this entire recording, this entire album, once again returning to the sheep in the background. That curtain is again closing, and there's Roger once again standing center stage, just one voice against it all. It's like each small candle, and I love it. It's such a, again, cathartic, beautiful, angst-ridden, but strangely hopeful album. And I'm gonna say it. It's my favorite Pink Floyd album of the 70s. I like that it still has a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, but it is also serious and biting, and a critique of the world we live in and the structures. I love all that. It's such an important album, and I implore any person of any age, but especially young people, if you're watching, to give this album a listen, especially if you only know the so-called radio hits, because there are none. That's the thing. This is the one Pink Floyd album I can think of that doesn't have any radio hits. So that alone makes it something special and cool to discover on your own. All right. So that's it for me for today. Last thing I want to say is that if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, please consider dropping a like at the bottom of the video. Please also consider commenting if something in this struck a nerve with you, or you have a certain feeling about this music that you would like to share. If you enjoyed this and would like to support the channel by donating a music or movie item, I am going to include a link to my Amazon wish list in the description. So go check it out should you choose to donate something potentially for me to review. The main goal is to rebuild my music collection with this Amazon wish list. But the secondary goal is also to have something to talk about and to discuss for all of you. So that's one way you can make a suggestion for something to review on this channel. And lastly, you can suggest my next review in the comments section directly. You can just drop me a line and say, hey, cover A Passion Play by Jethro Tull, or something like that. Stay tuned for that one. But yeah, just let me know. I would love to hear your feedback. But until then, my name's Ian Beabout. It's been a real pleasure talking to you as always. This is a great album, and we'll talk very soon. Bye-bye.